Hello there, welcome to ITV News Meridian.
Tonight's headlines in the Thames Valley. The woman from Newbury diagnosed with leukemia after thinking she had COVID. She says early diagnosis saved her life.
So from that point on, I kind of just said, fine, do what you have to do. I'm going to get through this and I'm going to live.
Calls for permanent hard shoulders to be reinstated to existing smart motorways, including the M3 and M4, after the government scraps the building of new roads over cost and safety.
The first step to league survival, Reading's new boss says he hopes holding the league leaders to a draw will spur his side on in their fight against relegation.
And the enchanting garden that's celebrating 50 years and the team devoted to creating the spectacular springtime display. Good evening. A woman who thought she had COVID symptoms was called by a doctor in the middle of the night and told she needed to get to hospital immediately because the results of her blood test were cause for serious concern.
It turned out that Mary Forster from Newbury was suffering from acute myeloid leukemia, which claims 2,600 lives each year in the UK. She believes swift action saved her life and is sharing her story with us because she wants others to recognise the symptoms. With more, here's Wesley Smith.
It may be just a piece of paper, but Mary Forrester's all-clear letter from the Royal Berkshire Hospital is something she treasures now. It brings both relief and hope. Mary hadn't felt right for a while, but this was early in the pandemic.
I thought it might be COVID because I just felt enormously fatigued all of a sudden. I didn't have any of the other symptoms, but I just felt exhausted. Finally rang my doctor and he said, well, you need a blood test. I had the blood test in the afternoon, came home, went to bed. And at about midnight, my phone rang, and it was a doctor from the Royal Berks saying, we've got your blood test results and we need to do further tests and we need you to come into A&E. And I said, that can't wait till the morning. And he said, no, you need to come in now. They're expecting you at A&E. So, it was, midnight. So I threw on some sweats and jumped in my car and drove to Reading, which is about half an hour away, and showed up at A&E. And they immediately called me in. And a doctor just came in and said, we think you've got leukemia. So from that point on, I kind of just said, fine, do what you have to do. I'm going to get through this and I'm going to live.
Mary knows she's fortunate because her particular cancer mutation was treatable because it was spotted in time. But it's aggressive, progressing rapidly, and more than 2,600 lives are lost to acute myeloid leukemia in the UK each year, with a 5-year survival rate little over 15%.
Some of the common signs and symptoms of leukemia are unexplained bruising and bleeding, or unexplained repeated infections. I think in Mary's case, she was suffering from breathlessness and fatigue, but actually she had a repeated tooth infection. The bruising is often, sort of all over one of your limbs. So it's not one bruise, it's possibly a number of bruises.
Mary knows how gruelling treatment can be. So World Acute Myeloid Leukemia Day this Friday aims to raise funds for better research and kinder treatments.
There's so many, bad endings to leukemia that it's really good to know that you can beat it. It is beatable and that, it can be treated if you hit it early enough. But I just feel very, very fortunate and blessed and very grateful to the hospital and all those amazing nurses and doctors.
Mary's raised hundreds of pounds for the Leukemia UK charity and is looking forward to many more years with her family and says how grateful they all are that she listened to her body and lived to encourage others to do the same. Wesley Smith, ITV News, Newbury.
The Education Secretary has agreed to meet the family of Ruth Perry, the former head teacher of Caversham Primary School, who died in January. Mrs Perry took her own life while waiting for an Ofsted inspection which downgraded her school from outstanding to inadequate. Gillian Keegan agreed to respond to a question in the Commons today by Reading MP Matt Rodder.
Mr Speaker, could I pay tribute to my constituent, Ruth Perry, the former head teacher of Caversham Primary School, who is a much-loved member of our local community. And could I also ask the Secretary of State to consider the very serious local concerns when she looks into this matter? And will she agree to meet with me, with local head teachers and with Ruth's family to discuss this important issue?
Well, I thank the honourable gentleman for his question, and of course I'd be very happy to meet. It's a tragic case, and I do send out my heartfelt sympathies to her family, her friends and all of the school community in your constituency.
The Education Secretary has also backed Ofsted's single-word ratings for school after teachers called for the system to be scrapped. Unions say single-word ratings do not reflect the complexity of a school and its quality of teaching. Gillian Keegan said they are clear and easy for parents to navigate.
Campaigners and drivers across the region are calling for hard shoulders to be reinstated on all smart motorways, now that plans to build any new ones have been scrapped.
Well, the government announced the U-turn at the weekend due to a lack of public confidence in the safety of smart motorways, including the M3 in Hampshire and the M4 in Berkshire.
Well, among those calling for change is Mary Robertson. Her car had a blowout on a smart motorway, and while the government argues conventional motorways aren't as safe, she disagrees. Here's James Dunham.
A man frantically waves a plastic bag to alert others that his van has broken down in a live lane on the M23 in Surrey. This is every driver's worst nightmare, and while the government won't be building any more smart motorways, for people like Mary, it's difficult to understand why the hard shoulder can't be brought back.
It's absolutely disgusting. They should review that completely.
She suffered a tyre blowout on the M1.
I felt physically sick and scared, really scared. You know, I was a woman on my own, which, you know, shouldn't make any difference. But for me, motorway driving and for going a distance is a big thing. And then to have that and not feel that I was safe on the road that I was on is terrible.
The government's scrapping of all future smart motorways now creates a danger of undermining safety on existing ones, with campaigners believing the decision strengthens their argument of reinstating the hard shoulder.
The hard shoulder is a very dangerous place still, but yet I think a refuge area and a live lane is more dangerous.
What needs to happen now then?
As far as I'm concerned, just draw the white line, keep all the technology, but draw a white line and reinstate the hard shoulder.
Converting the M3 south of Winchester is among 14 schemes now cancelled, saving the government more than £1 billion. But millions have been spent elsewhere on creating smart motorways. The price tag for the M4 between Maidenhead and Thill was £848 million. So, would it be cost effective or practical to undo that work?
It is practical, but it's a change. And the Transport Select Committee's report, which led to the pause in smart motorways initially, actually said that that may cause even more of a safety issue of reinstating the hard shoulder, because traffic would divert onto local roads, or you get additional congestion.
Ultimately, I think it looks like the scheme has been a very bad investment for taxpayers and has, in many cases, put motorists in grave danger. So I think lessons do need to be learned, and ministers should look at more feasible ways to tackle the problems of congestion in the future.
The government argue reintroducing the hard shoulder wouldn't be easy and would come at a significant cost with huge disruption. James Dunham, ITV News.
Now, you may have heard of the bionic man, but what about the bionic toad? Well, vets at the Tiddlywinks Wildlife Hospital in Aylesbury have treated this amphibian who came in with a fractured bone. He was fitted with a steel plate and 4 tiny screws. He's being monitored by staff before he can be released back into the wild, along with his new bionic limb.
I mean, that is the story of the day, isn't it? I wanted more on that story.
Do you know what I want to see?
What?
I want to see the bionic toad moving.
What, jumping really high?
Yeah, exactly. I want to see what it's done to him.
Maybe we'll do a follow-up. You're watching ITV News Meridian in the Thames Valley. Still to come on the programme, they make it look easy, but how did our reporter James Webster get on when he tried paddleboarding?
I hope he fell in. With hay fever season upon us, we look at how you can deal with some of the annoying symptoms of pollen.
Plenty more from us, of course, online. Details on the screen. There's the website, the phone number, and you can follow us online.
And the ITV Evening News continues with the national and international news at 6:30. Here's Mary Nightingale.
Coming up in the programme, the row rages on over animal welfare at the Grand National. The horse's trainer blames protesters for the death of Hill 16 on Saturday, the third fatality over the three-day event. Also tonight, why the Prime Minister is under investigation by Parliament's standards watchdog.
Banau Brycheiniog, an old name for a new way to be.
And rebranding the Brecon Beacons, how the National Park is reclaiming its Welsh heritage. Well, do join me for those stories and more at 6:30.
Let's get some sport now. Sarah joins us in the studio. Sarah, massive results in the Premier League at both ends of the table this weekend.
That's right, yes, thank you, Matt. At the top, Brighton look destined to have their best ever season, while Bournemouth have given themselves every chance of staying in the top flight. After a superb late win at Spurs, Southampton's season, though, sadly shows no signs of improving. Andrew Pate has the best of our Premier League action.
Zero Accounting Software sponsors ITV Regional Sports Report.
Bournemouth boss Gary O'Neill says his side took a huge step towards Premier League survival thanks to this injury time winner from substitute Dango Ouattara. And the Cherries fans clearly agree, with Bournemouth now 6 points above the drop zone.
And good news for Crawley in League Two. First, though, to Noel Hunt's first game in charge since taking over as caretaker manager at Reading. This perhaps unexpected point against the league leaders gave Reading their first clean sheet in the league this year and means only goal difference keeps them off safety. Interim boss Noel Hunt described the result as the first step in a small journey.
I thought we stepped up to the ball really well. And the work that the guys have done and we've done over the last 2 days obviously has really paid off. So it was a massive plus. A clean sheet is always a huge plus. We'll try our best to get another one now on Wednesday.
Oxford United are teetering above the bottom four following defeat to Bolton. The U's improved in the second half but couldn't find an equaliser. Portsmouth's trip to Shrewsbury earned them a vital point, thanks to Marlon Pack's 82nd minute equaliser. Crawley Town move out of the League Two relegation zone with their first win in 5 games. Goals from Armi Dote and Jack Powell sent Tranmere home empty-handed. And Swindon Town held Barrow to a goalless draw, with Charlie Austin inches away from giving his side the lead. Now, up until a few years ago, chances are you might not have even heard of paddleboarding, but it's now so popular, Sport England has given 2 organisations responsibility for managing the sport, making it easier for beginners like our reporter James Webster to give it a go.
Gliding along the water with perfect balance. Paddleboarders make it look so easy. At the paddle centre in Swanwick near Southampton, Carl loves the feeling of being on the water.
It's a great way to get out, relieve stress. It's out with nature, it's exercise without it feeling like it's exercise. Here on the Hamel River, it's quite sheltered, but you still need to be aware of the boating and other river users. It's a bit of courtesy required all round, but paddleboarding, it's a great friendly sport.
And it's rarely a solo activity. Paddling in a group is far more fun.
We meet up on a Tuesday evening and go for a club social paddle, tending to either go up towards Warsash or down towards Madder Farm, depending which way the tide's going. And it normally end up in a pub for a quick cheeky pint before going home.
It's a way of seeing the local community, the environment, the birds.
Reflecting its growing popularity, Sport England has now given responsibility for paddleboarding jointly to Surfing England and British Canoeing.
We want people who go out and do stand-up paddleboarding are safe, and primarily that means that they know where to go to do it safely, they use the right equipment, they wear buoyancy aids. And if they go for instruction, they go to people who know what they're doing. And so people who've got the right qualifications, the right experience to be able to make sure that they do it safely and have fun doing it.
Which is why I've booked myself some tuition.
First position, we'll just knelt down like this.
So, how easy is it for a beginner to try?
But I guess the main focus today is to just introduce you to paddleboarding, keep you nice and safe and try and keep you dry.
I started by learning that balancing on your knees is easier than standing up straight away.
There's no better feeling than doing a session with someone and knowing that they're going to be safe in the future. And that they've got another sport, a recreational sport to do outdoors, another form of exercise.
Jazz and his mum run sessions for people who've never tried the sport.
My eldest paddler is 86 years old and she paddleboards, and she started as a referral through COVID for social prescriptions. It's the same as going for a walk or cycling, but whereas they can impact people with some of the physical aspects of it, being on the water doesn't do that. So that's why you've got so many people going to it now.
Take your time, I've got you.
Despite a few wobbles, I was determined to find my feet. Sadly, my lack of steering meant I was heading straight for a canal boat.
Get ready to drop to your knee.
That was my first session. I felt a bit wobbly. How did you think I did?
I think you did really well, mate. I think it's windy conditions today. You're dry, that's the main thing.
Oh, man. I got you. Remember where I said where you look is where you go, so look forward, stare at that bridge, I've got you.
You look like you paddled well. How do you feel?
I enjoyed it.
Yeah?
I think I'd definitely have another go.
Yeah, well, I think if you can do it on a day like today, when it gets to June, July, August, be easy peasy.
Now the sport has two governing bodies, standards for tuition like this will be established, along with safety messages, all designed to help more people like me to enjoy paddleboarding for the first time. James Webster, ITV News.
Lovely, yeah, quite brave to do it without a wetsuit. I have tried it, but I certainly wouldn't do it without a wetsuit because I didn't stay dry for very long.
Yeah, well, James was really good, wasn't he?
Really
I was
good
hoping for
beginner.
that classic little shot
I know,
where
the big splash. I know, we didn't get it, did we?
Man overboard and all
It was
of that.
too good.
I think I could do it if I could just do it on my knees.
I think you should, and I definitely think we should film it.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Keep waiting for that one.
Let's make that happen.
So, thank you. Now, it finally felt a bit like spring again today, didn't it? A welcome return to dry and mild weather after all that rain we've been having, and a lovely time to be out and about enjoying our countryside.
And a Wood in Sussex is celebrating 50 years of hosting visitors, raising more than £1 million for charity. We sent Malcolm Shaw to enjoy the springtime display of beautiful wildflowers.
A sea of white anemones carpets the floor at Beaton's Wood near Arlington in Sussex. Among our first spring flowers and slow to spread, their presence here in such numbers indicates that this is an ancient woodland. The Romans considered wood anemones a lucky charm and would pick the first flowers to appear each spring to ward off fever. I think I'll take my chances and leave them where they belong. John McCutcheon, now 86, has lived here all his life, inheriting the wood from his father. He opens it to the public for a month each year in memory of his late wife Carolyn, who began the tradition in the early 1970s.
There's this window between the soil being warm enough to support the plants and the leaves of the trees coming out and darkening the thing. So you get the wood anemones, then the few bluebells coming, so you get this blue and white effect, and then it's all blue with the bluebells. I like to share it with other people who are not fortunate to live where I live. So it's very important, and we try and make our visitors as welcome as we can over the period we're open.
Soon spectacular displays of bluebells will take centre stage, attracting around 25,000 visitors over the 4 weeks.
I just love being in woods. It does things for me. It's like being in a cathedral. And the different flowers during the week sit open are lovely. So I appreciate wildflowers in particular.
Yes, it's improved
steadily over the years, really, that John has been totally committed to it, and of course he's raised so much money for charity.
The Arlington Bluebell Walk, as it's known, is a highly successful fundraising venture. Over the years, allowing for inflation, it's brought in £1.5 million for a host of different charities, while the joy the woods have given in their springtime beauty is priceless. Malcolm Shaw, ITV News, Arlington.
Absolutely beautiful, aren't they? Really nice.
I love it. And it's that, spring.
Yeah, we're getting there.
We're getting there.
We're getting there. Well, the flowers might look beautiful at this time of year, but you may be starting to notice, if you suffer from hay fever, your throat a bit scratchy, your nose starting to run a little bit, maybe. Just me,
Do you want tissue?
Sorry.
I was going to say hanky there. Well, there is a way to avoid some of these annoying hay fever symptoms. Our Philippa, presenter of weather, has been finding out more about the pollen season here in the UK.
Hay fever can turn spring sunshine into a sneezy, nose-tickling, eye-watering day. At least 1 in 5 people in the UK experience hay fever symptoms, and about 95% of those are allergic to grass pollen. The science of pollen distribution can be complex.
The pollen is released in the early morning, it's carried up in the atmosphere as the air warms, and then as the air cools again in the evening, that pollen will drop down again and come to the level in the atmosphere that we're breathing it in.
The pollen season can run from as early as January to as late as October. There are 3 types of pollen: tree, grass, and weed. Most people are allergic to just one type, but some are sensitive to all 3. So what can we do to help alleviate symptoms?
Maybe don't hang your washing out during those peak times. Give your dog a brush down before it comes in, maybe give yourself a brush down, maybe change your clothes, maybe have a shower even. There's anything that's stopping that pollen getting into your eyes and into your nose, that's going to really reduce those symptoms.
As well as different species of pollen, our weather can play a big part in just how eye-watering our day might be. If the pollen's released in the morning and we've got light rain or drizzle, that can suspend the particles, making for a tricky day for hay fever sufferers. If it's windy, that can easily disperse the particles and things are more comfortable. And on the plus side, if it's pouring with rain, that can wash the pollen out altogether. Thunderstorms can also impact the severity of a person's response to pollen. There is ongoing research into the idea that thunderstorms can cause pollen particles to explode, generating a more extreme response from those that suffer from hay fever or have respiratory issues. Pollen is part of the natural cycle, and while it creates the dazzling array of colour we see every year, it can make some of us really suffer. But with these top tips, you may just enjoy your spring days a little more.
The lovely Philippa Drew there. Do you suffer?
I do, lots, yes. Daily. I do a little bit, yes. Gets better. As I've got older, it's got better, which is good. Yes.
Some good tips there from Pip. Let's get your weather now. Here's James White.
Feels like home, whatever the weather. Valent Boilers and Heat Pumps sponsors ITV Meridian Weather.
Hi there, good evening. It's halfway through April, it's halfway through meteorological spring, and this little bit of information might not come as a surprise. It's actually been a little bit cooler than the long-term average. It's certainly been wetter than average, and guess what? There's been an awful lot of cloud around. We've certainly seen a fair amount of cloud today, but it has been on the mild side. That is set to change as we head through the rest of the week. That Scandinavian high starting to draw cooler air in from the east. That said, the high pressure does keep things relatively settled until we get to around Thursday night, Friday. As far as this evening goes, then a few sunny spells. Then once the sun goes down, lots of thick clouds start to spill in from the north and the east. Some of this is quite low, so it's going to be a bit murky in 1 or 2 spots. And temperatures, because of the clear spells earlier in the evening, they get down to about 5 or 6 Celsius before they start to stabilise. Tomorrow then, grey start to the day, much like today. Then some sunshine, much like today. And then into the afternoon, a bit of thicker cloud starts to spill in, and much much like today. As far as temperatures go, though, a bit cooler. We're looking at highs of around 14, maybe 15 Celsius. But the big difference is the breeze, much breezier than today and turning a little bit gusty around the coast. That's going to add to the feel of that cooler vibe. Now, as far as what happens on Wednesday, again, stays rather breezy. We get an easterly. Might see a degree extra on temperatures, highs around 16 Celsius. But once again, there's going to be this varying amounts of cloud. There will be some sunshine at times and a bit of cloud too. More cloud on Thursday, then, like I say, possibly some showers overnight into Friday.
Valent sponsors ITV Meridian Weather.
In just a moment, the ITV Evening News here with Mary Nightingale.
I'm back with your late update just after 10:30 this evening, but until then, thank you very much for watching. Take care.
Bye-bye.